In this lesson, we are going to learn how to create a new categorical variable from some existing variables in your data frame. In the last couple of lectures, what we did is we created a new dummy variable called smaller house, which takes a value of 1 for the respondents who were living in a household with 2 or 1 people. So these were our smaller households, and then it takes a value of 0 for people who were living in a household with more than 2 people. So this is how we created our smaller house dummy variable. And we also learned how to change the levels or the names of the categories of a categorical variable. So for this pp gender, originally the way that it was coded was it was 1 for male respondents and 2 for female respondents, and we just changed those 1s and 2s with males and females. So in this lecture, let's pretend that we want to create a new variable at the intersection of this pp gender and smaller house variable. So what that means is that this new categorical variable will have 4 levels. So one level will be female respondents living in a smaller house. The second level will be female respondents living in a larger house. Then the third level will be male respondents living in a smaller house. And lastly, male respondents living in a larger house. So these 4 categories should be present in our new categorical variable. So how do we do that? First, let's create a comment. Creating a new categorical variable at the intersection of pp gender and small house. Just as before, first we have to type the name of the data frame inside which we are creating this new variable. So this data frame is loinc2, and then put your $sign and type the name of the new variable that you are going to create. So let's call this gen underscore small house, and then use the assignment operator. Next, we are going to use the ifelse function. This function we used before, but this will be a slightly advanced application of the ifelse function. So let's think about the 2 conditions first. So the first condition is if the pp gender takes a value equal to female and smaller house takes a value equal to 1, then we are going to name it female living in a smaller house. So that's the plan. So then loinc2 $sign pp gender equals, then use the quotation mark because this is the character female, and loinc2 $sign smaller house equals 1, and then a comma, and then give the name of the new category. So this would be female living in a smaller house. So I'm just going to increase my space here a bit so that you can see my full code. So note that here we did not use the quotation mark because this is an integer, so this is a number, so we didn't require that quotation mark, but because these are characters, that's why we put a quotation mark on either side of female. Next, what we're going to do is put a comma and then just press enter, and then I'm just going to copy this whole thing with the comma and I'm just going to paste it down. Next, I'm gonna just make some little bit of changes here to this code. So this is just literally copy pasting. This should be 0 for the second condition, and female living in a, this should be larger because if smaller house is equal to 0, that means a larger house. Then I'm gonna paste the same thing as I did previously. So for the third condition, this has to be male, and then this be 1, but this thing has to be male living in a smaller house. And for the last condition, we don't have to use the if else anymore. So the idea here is that if these 3 conditions are not met, then this function automatically goes to the 4th condition. So we don't have to type it out. We can just use the quotation mark and type just this part and make a little change, because the 4th condition would be male living in a larger house. So if the first 3 conditions are not met for any particular respondent, then this if else function realizes that for that particular respondent, it has to put this value in those rows. Now notice that R is showing us there is something wrong happening here because the brackets that we put do not match the brackets that should be put. So this bracket closes this bracket, so we need one more. So this closes this bracket and we need one more to close the first bracket. So don't worry about the brackets because R is so smart, it will direct you towards the correction. So now it looks like there are no more errors here. So I'm gonna select the whole thing and click run, and it looks like it has worked. So just double check if it really worked the way that we wanted it to work. So female living in a larger house, it looks like it did it perfectly. Then let's have a look at female living in a smaller house. Smaller house takes a value of 1. It worked. Male, this is living in a larger house because smaller house takes a value of 0 here. That means it's a larger house. And then male living in a, so this one is still a smaller house, male, smaller house 0, so that means male living in a larger house. So that means the code has worked. So this is how you create a new categorical variable based on some of the existing variables in your data frame.